Hello, my name is Scott Ormiston, and I'm here to present to you today's Cut to the Chase about our Synack FedRAMP Moderate Authorized designation that we recently received. To begin with, I just want to give a little background on what is FedRAMP for those that are not familiar with it. It is the Federal Risk and Authorization Management Program. FedRAMP is a program that was created by the U.S. government to help simplify and lower the overall cost to both the government and to cloud secure solution providers for doing cloud business with the federal government. It provides a standardized risk assessment process that can be done once and used many times across multiple federal customers. So, we're very happy to announce that after a long, hard road, we finally have received our FedRAMP moderate authorization from the PMO office. And, so the question is what does this do for you? And how does this help you as our government customers? And really, the simplest answer is that it provides you a measure of comfort in the ability to safely test external internal assets. And it helps you with streamlining the authority to operate or ATO process if you want to bring the Synack platform into your solution set, into your cloud vendor list. So what that does is that gives you those controls that are already prepared, and it allows you then to connect to and test systems that have different types of unclassified information, including PII or what was formerly as FOUO for official use only. So this gives access a certain level of risk mitigation when you're connecting to our system to your systems. What are the controls that are in place? There are 325 NIST 853 controls that we achieved and that were validated by our third-party approving authority, as well as by the FedRAMP PMO. What this does is this reduces the need for you to go and re-verify all of those for us as your FedRAMP provider. Currently, we are the highest FedRAMP designated of any security penetration testing provider. So what is the architecture of Synack's FedRAMP environment? So our standard environment is here below, and we've drawn a red box around the parts that are actually included with our FedRAMP platform. So what the FedRAMP solution is it's a system that provides remote access for our security researchers to access your assets to conduct security testing, penetration testing, and other types of security actions. The platform itself consists of a self-service with full role-based access controlled portal that provides you access to set up and run tests. This portal then is connected to our Synack Red Team and our Smart Scan Recon solution. The Smart Scan solution does automated scanning of your assets at the beginning of every penetration test and continually throughout the test. This provides analysis and other data to the Synack Red Team to help them in conducting the penetration test. The Synack Red Team actually operate from workstations that are within our cloud environment. This provides risk mitigation as your data never leaves the Synack environment. It is not hosted locally on our researchers' laptops or home computers or their work computers. It is in a cloud environment that is managed and under the controls that are granted by our FedRAMP status. This combined with our LaunchPoint VPN, which is the single point of connectivity for all tests, provides that ability for you to both have complete visibility of all activity from both our Smart Scan and our Synack Red Team, as well as an understanding that you have the ability to stop testing at any point. So now that I've given you a little bit of background of kind of what is part of our FedRAMP platform, let me talk about how that provides access for testing of your assets for doing penetration and other security tests. We conduct testing of multiple types of assets. We test mobile applications, web applications, host and infrastructure, as well as APIs. We are able to do this through both public external facing websites or public facing or public accessible IPs, as well as through connectivity to the cloud. What's really important of our FedRAMP certification is that with our VPN technology, it allows us to connect to your internal networks. And in order to have that connection, federal mandates that dictate that you must only connect your internal sensitive assets and sensitive data to FedRAMP approved providers. So that's what the authorization, that's really the key point, is this middle one where you're connecting through VPN to internal assets. What this does is it allows us to test sensitive assets and sensitive that are hosting potentially sensitive data with inside your environment in a secure way. So by combining our Synack Red Team, which is a highly vetted, highly skilled group of security researchers, with our FedRAMP moderate platform, we now have a secure way to give access to those testers to test your assets with inside your environment. I'll start here. This is the homepage of our client portal. Here you receive a high-level view of all vulnerabilities that have been identified by Synack, both by our researchers and that have been discovered by our SmartScan technology, as well as the remediation status of all vulnerabilities. In addition, there are high-level statistics on the scans that are running, SRT engagement, and more specific information on critical details such as vulnerability count, remediation timeframes, and patch efficacy. Patch efficacy, very simply, is a measure of the number of times that a vulnerability is remediated successfully on the first try. One of the advantages of the Synack platform is we do not only help you find vulnerabilities, but we help you remediate those vulnerabilities in a timely and effective fashion by including patch verification with every assessment. This allows you to return once a vulnerability is remediated, to return it to Synack for us to have our researcher test again to validate that that patch was effective and that no new vulnerabilities allowing circumvention of that patch were created. This can be repeated as often as needed. Patch efficacy, as I was saying, is that measurement of how many times the patch verification passes on the first try. So what does a Synack assessment look like? Go to our assessment tab and go to our demo web application. So a Synack assessment includes all of the information that is critical to be shared between you, the client, and our Synack researchers. This is information such as a description of the application, details of the application's environment, rules of engagement, which is fully customizable based on your needs, as well as containing some standard ROEs such as no physical or social engineering or no denial of service testing. Additionally, we provide listing of the scope, both in and out of scope assets, so you can clearly define what you do want tested and what you do not. And we provide the source IP addresses of all of our active testing, as well as the firewall allow list information needed to allow our testing to be conducted. This information allows you to track all activity from Synack at all times. In addition to the ability to track all of our activity, you also have the ability here to pause any assessment at any time. So once an assessment starts, we start with our SmartScan technology, which goes and scans the assets that are within scope and collects information that is useful to our researchers to begin their vulnerability hunting. Once they have gone in and started testing and found a vulnerability, they will immediately report it in through the platform. This vulnerability, once validated by our Synack operations, will show up here on the right-hand side of the assessment, on the home page, or on the vulnerabilities tab. So very simply, you can pivot from here within the assessment to open vulnerabilities, and you have a list now of all the vulnerabilities associated with assessment. So what does a vulnerability report look like? What is the deliverable that the researcher will provide to you when they find a vulnerability? A vulnerability report contains a lot of information. It contains information like the name, the category and subcategory, a description, and impact of the vulnerability. In addition to this, it'll provide one or more locations that the vulnerability was found, the payload that was used in identifying the vulnerability, and a step-by-step reproduction of what the SRT member did to exploit the vulnerability. A unique feature of Synack is that this entire vulnerability report is your information. It belongs to you as the client. So once the researchers identified this vulnerability and reported it, any sharing or distribution of this vulnerability is completely at your discretion. One thing nice about the reproduction steps is this can often be used combined with the recommended fixes to help your development teams remediate the vulnerability. Additional information provided are CVSS scores, patch verification history, which I spoke about before, and vulnerability history, actions and changes that have happened. The last thing I will point out in the portal is you also have the ability at any time to communicate with the Synack team or directly with the researcher that has identified the vulnerability. This can be very useful when there's not a clear understanding of how the exploit was executed or other questions about the methodology that was used by the researcher. They can clarify that information by direct communications with you, or if you share portal access with your development teams. So just to summarize, the Synack portal provides a consolidated place for security and vulnerability penetration testing. By having a single dashboard bringing this information together, you can start to find the root causes of not just what vulnerabilities we have and where they are, but why are we having them? What's causing them? Are we having repetitive issues? Are there more complex problems that we need to address? That wraps up the cut to the chase session for today. I'd like to thank you for joining me. And if you have any questions or would like more information, please visit us at synack.com.